It's time for Geocache Talk. Whether you are at work, in the car, or wherever you are, we hope you enjoy this show about the great sport of geocaching. If you're watching live on YouTube, you can be part of the adventure tonight in the chat room and participate with others as they watch the show. If you are listening later, please give it a like and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app so that you can get all of the weekly Geocache Talk goodness. If you have not become a patron of the Geocache Talk Network, what are you waiting for? Patron levels start as low as a Bison Tube level at $3 a month. To sign up is easy. Simply go to the Geocache Talk website and click on the Become a Patron button, or go to patreon.com/Geocache Talk. Patrons now get the famous Blackout coin, invites to special events, and other really great items throughout the year. Become a patron today. Have you subscribed to FTF Magazine yet? FTF Magazine is the #1 geocaching magazine available. It is a quarterly magazine that you can be part of. Submit your geocaching milestones and adventures to be published. FTF Magazine is also interactive with puzzles to solve and the hunt to find Spartacus. If you can solve the puzzle or find Spartacus, then you will be entered in to win a special pack tag. Every new subscription, you will receive a special swag pack. Subscribing is easy. Just visit FTF's website, ftfgeo.com. Don't miss out and subscribe today.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Big thanks to Derek of Baker 6 Clan and our featured patrons, Motorima, Bloody Cool, JR and Juju, Boo Boo _1, Kitty Catch, Finlay and his Drudge. Happy birthday to Finlay, by the way. Finlay, I'm not sure how old Finlay is, but I saw him with his little doggy birthday cake. It was really cool. Seebeck Tribe, Curious KDB, Gene Hunter, Fam Gustafson, and our new patrons, Alibaba, 40 Thieves, Geocacher Ken, and Meg the Pirate. All right. Well, let's get started. Let's jump right into show. It's actually show 477, if you count everything together now, which we're kind of doing. So this is our 477th show.
That jumped us up a few numbers. That's good.
That's good, but that's all of them. That's including Puzzle Talk and Gadget Talk and Challenge Talk and everything, and Geocaching with Kids. So 477.
Does it include Geocaching with Kids? Because that's audio only.
It is audio only, but it's a show still.
But how are we going to do that going forward? That one doesn't show up on YouTube, does it?
No, but it shows up on our it's on our grouping of shows, so
our
it's
basket
available.
Of shows.
Yeah, it's in our
Sack of shows.
whole repertoire of shows. Yeah,
there
it's
you
in
go.
A giant bag of shows.
I'll just have to trust you on the numbers then.
Yeah, well, I'm taking it from the how many times we upload audio to the website. So
okay.
There you go.
That's close enough.
So, because, we have a lot of audio listeners. Thank you, audio listeners that are out there. So it's our 477th show as we welcome Brian Klinger to AKA K-Blast to the show tonight. Welcome to Geocache Talk.
Hey, thanks. Glad to be here.
We're so glad you're here as well. It's going to be a fun night. A lot of cool stuff we're going to cover. And before we do that, though, we do have a little bit of news we want to get to. So let me start with that. I am producing as well. So if we have trouble, you can't blame Derek because Derek's not here tonight to help us.
Hey, that's the best time to blame Derek. He's not here to defend himself. What are you talking about?
Here to defend himself.
More.
So let's start with some news. I pushed the button and nothing happened. So that was.
I blame it on Derek.
I blame it on Derek. All right. A couple quick notes. We've got the leaderboard challenge still going. Going to end soon, but we do have the Reach the Peak is still going. And this month we talked about they talked about this Tuesday on Gadget Talk, but it's Aconcagua Close
Of course.
enough. You get the idea.
Yeah.
Aconcagua. Somebody will fix it in the in the chat room. So
Somebody will blast us, I'm sure, because they'll be all mad,
Jinxer, there it is. What's funny is I was about to say Jinxer will fix it, and I looked down in the chat room, and she did fix it. Aconcagua. Thank you. There you go. See, I knew she'd fix it for us. But isn't that funny? I knew she fixed it on Tuesday also. So, all right, there you go.
She did that fast, too. How did she do that so fast?
She was ready. She knew I was going to screw that
She
thing
knew
up.
we were going to butcher it, and she was just ready, waiting to get us.
Absolutely. The other note I want to mention is that the pre-event coins are still available. I've got a whole bag of them, so please buy them and get them out of my house, please. Also, it helps pay for Cache Fest. So we're helping Cache Fest out. But there's the coins. There they are. I think most people bought. If you want to buy some more, I still have them. You're allowed to buy them more than one time. So that's
you don't have them in the fancy box that I've heard rumors about.
Now the crate is also available. So the crate is out there also on the website. The crate people are loving. So a lot of people are buying the coins and also buying a crate. So
if nothing else, we're going to have some of the coolest swag out there. So
absolutely. So that'll be fun. We're doing a lot of Cache Fest planning. So just know that the Cache Fest team is hard at work on all aspects of and there's a lot going on. I'm going to be in Memphis on the 27th weekend. Going to be working with Derek, and hopefully Ryan will make the trip. Ryan's working on it.
He's in the chat room right now
as well. Yeah. Ryan's been helping us ship them. He's got 5 of them going out tomorrow. Excellent. Thank you, my friend. That really helped.
Even though I'm from there, I'm not going to be able to go there probably until the event. That's what's sad. Event. And I was grown up there, so
you are busy. Yeah, you are.
Yeah, it is. Okay. It is what it is.
Yeah, a lot of good planning going on. Looking forward to that. I'm not going to spill any beans on that.
Not tonight.
Not tonight. But we got some great stuff in the works, so that'll be coming soon. All right, got a lot to cover tonight. Got a lot to talk about. So, Brian, this is a fascinating thing too. So let's start with where you are and why you are where you are.
I am in a hotel room here in Central Ohio. I live in the Columbus area, and I have a bunch of geocaching friends who love solving puzzles. We're all like puzzle fans. And we, in the process of solving puzzles and doing some of these puzzles, we found out about this thing called puzzle hunting that is nothing to do with geocaching, but you go to websites, solve puzzles, and one puzzle leads to another. You can put a whole bunch of puzzles together to get the meta puzzle and solve the meta puzzle, and there's competitions all over the place. They used to do them, we went to one in Pittsburgh. They were all over the place, and now a lot of them have gone virtual. Well, this weekend happens to be kind of the Super Bowl of meta puzzles. It is the MIT. They put out a puzzle hunt that literally is 3 days long. Dang. And has groups of puzzlers. Some of the groups are over 100 people in the group. So me and my 7 friends are all in this hotel room furiously working on these puzzles and trying to see how well we can do. There's people that are done. We're like, a fifth of the way. We've done like a small little section of it. But we're having a great time putting these together, having all those aha moments when you solve a puzzle, and you get like 50 of those in a weekend like this.
Yeah, that is awesome.
And even though it's not geocaching, it was tied to geocaching, which I know you don't want to give any spoilers or whatever way, but we talked about that before the show. But one of the things that we also talked about was something that a lot of us miss, which is you're getting together with friends to do it. And if people for a long time, they weren't getting together, which rightly so, they weren't getting together. And now people are slowly starting to get together again. And that's one of, and Gary and I talk about this all the time, but that's one of the best things about geocaching is you get together with friends and you know, go act like a nerd with friends. So it's fun.
And I've done some of these puzzles by myself, and you're right, it's not nearly as much fun as when you can get together with your buddies. You know, one person comes up with an idea, another person says, hey, what about this? And you all just kind of work it out together. And that is the fun part of it. Absolutely.
Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of this past year when we had a little group in Rome, Georgia, doing the going caching. Even though people were like, we were lucky it was in our hotel, but we stayed up for hours in the lobby. And there was other groups there too that were doing their own, you know, puzzle solving. But we had a group there, and we're just cranking out all the solves that we needed to make. And it was just fun all together, sitting in the lobby, you know, drinking coffee and staying up till wee hours trying to get through all as far as we could in getting all this. So that's a memorable time, you know. And my son was there, and he's really good at working on some of those puzzles as well. And we kind of would split the puzzles up in different groups. It's like, you work on this puzzle and we'll work on this part. We'll get together and kind of work through them. It was just like you said, it's a great time together to do those.
Well, and I didn't tell you guys about this, but I also help out with the MOGA. I work in the MOGA, and my job is to build the big puzzle that people can work on till all hours of the night.
Nice.
Piecing it all together. That I get a lot of my ideas from these puzzle weekends. I get some ideas and put it all together, and get to do some pretty cool stuff. Were you aware of what happened at the MOGA this year?
I am not. Maybe I'm not. I know that is this have to do with the bridge?
Yes.
I know that they had. Yeah. Okay.
That was my big moment. I was really, really excited that I could pull that off.
That is awesome.
It was basically, when people ask me what I do, I said I build escape rooms for entire cities.
Right.
So you go around the whole city, you put all these pieces together, and then at the end, and I was so pumped when I was talking to one of the commissioners at the city, and they're like, well, we have a bridge that does lights. I'm like, you're going to let me commandeer a bridge with lights?
Right.
This is amazing. And
this is awesome.
That was great. One of those things, with being able to put it all together and make it all point at this bridge at the very end of the puzzle. So
yes, that is awesome.
It's amazing what cities and stuff they'll buy into stuff. They realize people are coming to have fun in town. They'll do a lot of things. You know, we've seen. I've never seen the bridge thing before. That's pretty awesome. But I've been to events in like towns where they'll, on their welcome sign, it says "Welcome Geocachers" and things like that. And you're like, you love when you see something like that, because you still have to sneak around, right? Because there's still muggles in the town, but the town officially knows you're there, and you feel like a VIP when you show up and do stuff like that.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That's perfect. All right, so I need to show a picture, and this is show and tell. You're gonna have to give the context, or sort of show the picture, and you have to give the context around what this photo is about. So here we go. There's the photo.
Yep.
What in the world is going on, Brian?
That is me giving the big peace sign. That is one of the most exciting things I have ever done in my entire life. Last year, I found out about this group. It was called the Marching Band Directors Marching Band. Band Directors Marching Band. And all band directors, 270, because I'm a band director, if you didn't figure that out from that, 270 band directors from all 50 states and Mexico all came together a few days before the Rose Bowl parade to meet and play together for the very first time. We had to memorize 4 songs, put it all together, and then we marched in the Rose Bowl parade.
Woohoo!
So
that's awesome.
me in the Rose Bowl parade. We did this whole thing. If you saw the band director, we did a bunch of firsts ever. It was the first group of band directors from all 50 states. It's the first time that there has ever been a float and marching band entry. It's either a marching band or a float. We were a float marching band, and what we did was we were marching around that corner where they do the TV, and they had us split up, and the float went through the band. Which is incredibly dangerous. And we spent a lot of time practicing to make sure no one got run over, because that's kind of important to not have that happen.
Kind of important.
That could be another first, though.
Exactly.
A marching band run over by a float. That probably hasn't happened.
So the float gets all the way through, and then we close up back up. And so the float is in front of us from that point for the next 5.5 miles of marching that we did. And after the first mile, they say, all right, all the TV cameras are off. You can do whatever you want. And that's where that picture came from, with me giving the peace sign. And I was high-fiving people along the parade route. I just screamed at one point, I can't believe I'm in the freaking Rose Bowl parade.
I'm in the Rose Parade here. Take a look. Yeah, that's okay.
It was awesome. so cool. And actually, we're talking about people getting run over. They have people who are working the Rose Parade, and one of them was on a little scooter, and he passed out. Something happened. He drove into one of our sousaphone players.
No way. Oh, my God.
I'm sitting here right behind it. I watched this domino effect of band directors just falling to the side of me. I'm like, I'm glad I'm not over there, but I'm sitting here. The first thing in my mind is I want to go help, but then they're yelling at us. You can't all help, even though you're all band directors. And he literally passed out on the scooter, and they had to rush him to the hospital. They had to rush the sousaphone player to the hospital. The sousaphone was all dented in. It was absolutely insane watching this thing happen. So we avoided the float, but then one of their workers hit us instead.
Full contact marching band.
That's exactly.
Here's a quick shot I took of you guys out there playing. Let me fast forward a little bit here. That's the float. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm glad you didn't get hurt, but it would have been kind of cool if it just ran through everybody. That would have been kind of funny. I'm sorry.
It would have. I'm not gonna lie.
There you are doing 76 trombones, which is funny. You probably had 76 trombones.
It felt like it.
That is awesome. Awesome stuff, man.
That is interesting.
Yeah. I taped it and I went back and I was like, I know Brian's in here. I don't know where he is exactly, but I'm gonna tape it. I sent you that because obviously but that's just really cool. I mean, we watch it every year, maybe not necessarily always live, but we'll tape it, and the wife and I will go back. I'm always fascinated by the way they make them. Maybe it's the technical part of me or whatever, but the fact that it's hard to, they got to use plants and they can't use other material, they've got to use all these natural materials. And it's kind of, it's cool to see to me how they think outside the box and make use of things that you normally wouldn't think of, because they, again, they're thinking through and making use of things.
Well, like they told us that if you ever wondered, the black on those band director pants, on the marching band members' pants, was seaweed. I'm like, who would have thought to use seaweed to make black? And you're exactly right. It's a really cool concept the way they pull that off.
Yeah. They think through all these things, or they have to solve a lot of problems. It's like a puzzle solving. You got to solve a puzzle,
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So we're going to get into some different epic caches tonight. We're going to call them memorable caches. Before we get started on some of the main themed ones tonight, one of the things we were talking about before the show was a cache that Jesse did. And I remember when he did this, he told me about it, but you guys talk a little bit about It's an audio cache of some type, right, Jesse?
It is. There's it was June. I think
it's
I looked it up.
Brian's,
I think it
right?
was June of 2018 when I did it.
Okay.
And it's a virtual, of course, the owner's here with us, but it was, I don't remember how many stages there were to it. I know it was around the park, and you had the text information in, and it would text you back. And I thought that was the coolest concept for it. And I'm trying to talk about it without giving anything away. I know it's been out there for quite a while now, but
no, that's actually in the description. Is you are supposed to text FIP. I use the name FIP, PHIP, for various technical reasons because I'm a bit of a computer nerd. But anyway, you text him and you text him the answers to one of the stages of the virtual. And then he responds and says, great, you got the answer. Here's where your next stage is. And he kind of walks you through the virtual until the end. And then the final, one of the parts that I really like is instead of having to email the owner, I automatically get emailed as the owner when you complete the final stage. So it just says, hey, you entered the right answer. You could go ahead and log your find online.
That's awesome.
I was actually up there in Ohio visiting family, and the family I was visiting was my brother and his young son, who obviously is a couple years older now, but this was about 3 years ago. Went and did it. He walked around with us doing it, and I remember thinking it was one of his first. I mean, he had done maybe a dozen before that or whatever, and he was little. I remember thinking, like, should I tell him they're not all like this, or just let him figure it out later when his dad takes him, to figure it out? Because we found a couple different ones, like in the woods and stuff like that, but that was just like in a park that was real close to their house at the time. And I remember thinking, like, they're not all this intricate, and also thinking, like, how long did it take to set that thing up?
It was a few months of me figuring out how the API works for the text messaging process. Now that I've got that all figured out and got all the pieces together, I can throw one of those together actually pretty quickly. But just getting it all set up in the first place was a few months process. Me going back and forth with the people it's Twilio. If anyone's ever interested in trying to build something like that, it's TWILIO is the name of the company that I use. And so, yeah, I figuring all that out was hard. And then once I got it working with the language that I know, which happens to be PHP, which is why the name of the guy is FIP. I code in PHP. And so once I got all that figured out, that was really easy because that's like a second language to me.
Now, is there an ongoing fee for that one? Do you have to pay money to get that done?
It's like a half of a tenth of a cent or something per text message. So I pay for it, but if people enjoy it, as long as they're not sitting there spamming and texting over and over, I haven't had that happen yet. So I feel like I'm all right with paying that little bit out. It's ended up being when we had the Gigastock that didn't happen. There were a lot of people that came up and pulled that off. Came up to do it just because it was so rare to find a virtual with a 5-star difficulty. And so a lot of people came up and did it. And I probably put out $20 that week, but that's not bad. That's not bad at all for the number of people that did it and the joy that people get. That's, people put out that kind of money just putting together caches sometimes. So
did you have much trouble getting the reviewer to buy into it initially, or did it?
No, actually, I sent the reviewer exactly how to do it and what they had to do, and they were texting it back and forth. They're like, this is really cool. So it worked out. That worked out great for that.
I haven't come across another one like that anywhere before or since then. So it's still a pretty unique, and I'm sure people have copied it since then, but still pretty unique, I think.
Well, and like you said, it costs money and it takes time to figure out how to do. So if people figure it out, I'm thrilled. I love that other people would possibly do it. I thought it was fun building it, and I would have fun doing it if I went somewhere that had one like that.
Have you had somebody call you to try to copy it yet?
They've sent me messages periodically, and I just tell them exactly what I told you, Twilio, and then I set it up. I'll help them as much as I can. I honestly don't remember a lot of this setup, and if it ever fell apart, I'd probably just have to archive it. but Twilio is used by a lot of companies as an automatic text responding software or programming. So
kind of thing, right?
I feel pretty safe with it.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool. Well, it's a unique cache, and that kind of leads into exactly what we're talking about tonight. So that was a perfect segue, except for that one just happens to be yours. So
Yeah. GC for audio listeners, GC7 B as in bison, 77W as in like water.
is water what we use for that one?
We do.
Okay.
G water. GC7B 77W. It's Grove City Remembers. And K Blast, he's got some good favorite points on it too, man. So that's good.
It should. I mean, that's
should.
effort, right? That's not, you didn't just like take them to one sign and read something off a sign. There's a lot of effort that went into putting that cache out.
That's awesome.
And to me, that's what an awesome cache is all about, is seeing the effort that somebody put in to make something different, to make something special. That's the kind of caches that I look for whenever I go somewhere whenever I go to a new state, whenever I go to a new city. I'm looking for somebody that put out some effort, and I love those caches.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So speaking about the aforementioned event that Jesse still thinks is fake news, which is okay.
Can't prove it's not.
Which was in Cincinnati, which was Gigastock. Something happened. And so I want to ask you about, we're going to start talking about this cache that one of our main topics tonight, Brian, and that is a cache that you found out about by a discussion that was at Gigastock. So take us back to that time. Do you remember much about how that came about? Just finding out about this cache first.
I actually do. I remember most of this. I was at the Gigastock that didn't happen, and I was wandering around to various vendors and talking to people and just shooting the breeze, because people who know me know that I just like talking to people. I know that my friends, if they're watching this, are all laughing because they know that that's absolutely who I am. And I'll talk to anybody, and I love talking about caches that are amazing, that are different, that are outside of the box, that are pretty special. And I've mentioned it to one of the vendors at Gigastock. Right. This was before the whole thing kicked off. And they said, "Oh, you have to do Pandora's Box." And I said, "What?" They said, "It's one of the best caches that I've ever done in my entire life. I guarantee it." And I've done she mentioned, hundreds and hundreds of caches she'd done. And she said, "You have to go do Pandora's Box." And I went, "All right, well," I mean, she was very, very adamant. And that, I don't get that very often. People are like, "Yeah, there's some cool cache out there." But she was like, "This is the greatest thing I've ever done. It's an experience. I can't even describe it to you." And I said, "Okay, well, that piqued my interest." That seals it. So I went and looked it up, and I found this thing in North Carolina. And I started looking all over the page. This is actually a hilarious story. I'm looking all over the page, trying to find anything about how this thing works. And there's all kinds of pieces about, and I'll go ahead and get this started here. To even get into this cache, you have to get one of 4 keys. You have a north, west, east, and south key. And you have to get it from somebody who did it prior to you. They're set up as trackables and stuff that you can put into a cache, but most people just hang on to it because you know what happens to trackables in caches. So I was looking at this cache page, trying to figure out if there's any way to find out who has the key, how I could get one, what I could do to that's a great.
You're no longer my friend if you don't do it. That's funny.
That's fantastic, because there's some truth there. So trying to figure out what to do, and I'm looking all over, and I look into the hints, and there's this weird hint at the bottom. And because I'm a puzzler, I look at things different than anybody else, and I put some things together, and I came up with a phone number. I rearranged things, came up with a phone number, saw this phone number, and I went, "I'm going to call this number." I mean, the area code was for the area that this cache is in.
Right.
I'm like, this has got to be something. So I called the number, and they didn't answer.
Okay.
And it's, getting late at night. I'd say 11 at night or so, and I get a phone call. And I'm like, who's calling me at 11 at night?
Right.
And I answer the phone, and the guy on the other end says, I got a call from this number. Who are you, and why were you calling me? I said, well, I was looking, and I thought that I just had a wrong number.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't want to say, well, I'm looking for a geocache, because if it's some weirdo, I don't want to cause problems. And I'm looking for something about Pandora. He's like, what about Pandora? And I said, well, there's this thing that I do. It's like a scavenger hunt thing. It's like, and all of a sudden I must have hit the right combination. He went, you're talking about Pandora's box. What do you want to know about? And so I knew that I was talking to somebody who knew
right.
It was the cache owner.
Right.
The cache owner apparently encrypted his phone number and didn't think anybody would figure it out. I went and figured it out, and he's like, well, you need to get on the cache page and sign up and tell people you're interested, and then try to make this happen. And
wow.
So I got on there and did all this, and I get a message from somebody. It was King Tut is the name of the cacher in the area.
Okay, right.
He says, I see you're interested in this. It's really hard to do, and you have to be in the area to do it. You're from Ohio. How are you going to do this? And I said, well, I'm just going to be in North Carolina. Is there another one you can recommend? Because I look for awesome caches, and he came up with another one by the same cache owner called Earth, Wind, Air, and Fire.
Right.
And so we decided I'm going to go meet this guy that I've never even heard of before, who sends me a message on geocaching. I met him in a park, and
right.
he found another buddy, and we all went and did this, and it was a pretty amazing cache that we did. That one was also awesome, with climbing bridges and climbing cliffs and getting into some really crazy stuff. And after we did that, King Tut said, all right, I think you're worthy. I'm going to save it for you. And so he's become one of my good caching friends. Every time I get a chance, I've driven down to Carolina and stayed with him. And he's talking about coming up here. He was going to, and then COVID hit.
Yeah,
we got
that's
all
awesome, though.
Crazy plans that we want to do, but awesome dude. But so that's how I got word of this. And then I had access to a key, and there are 3 other keys. And then the trick was, how do we get all of us coordinated to show up at the same time? And so that was a 2-year process, because one of the people who had a key went off the grid. And I had to contact him. I was doing everything I could to get hold of it. And that's me receiving the key.
You are
from King Tut.
Giving the key. We're showing it on the screen for
He did not let me have it until the night before, because he did not want me losing it.
That's awesome. That's incredible. Yeah, in case people are wondering, as far as it's in the book, not this version, because you can't buy this version anymore, but in the 501 geocaches in each state, whatever it's called now, that I called it anyway. Yeah, so Earth, Wind, and Fire is number 4. Yeah, number 4 on the list there, and Pandora's Box is number 1. So you definitely found 2 of the more memorable ones in North Carolina. So incredible. But yeah, this is kind of how really tonight kind of got started. Was I've known Brian for some time now, but I noticed your log in this cache, and we'll get into, again, we have to be careful. We don't want to do any spoilers, but the information you're giving, Brian, is so great, because this is really what we're all looking for, are these memorable caches. So,
well, and not only that, I mean, this one is I think it's a 2008 cache. If you were trying to set this up, so this is one of those grandfathered caches, rules have changed like 5 times since then. You wouldn't be able to get away with this nowadays, where, you have to get in touch with some other previous cacher to get a key. So these are very good experiences because you'll never create a new one. Like, I mean, there's other versions, obviously, because cachers are creative, but you could not set this cache up today. They would not allow it by any means. So when you come across something like this, it's worth going to do while it still exists, because things like this won't exist forever because they're hard to keep going or whatever. But you shouldn't miss, anytime you hear of one like this, you should never miss an opportunity to go do a cache like this, because they're not making more caches like this.
Right.
Well, and the cache owner was fantastic. I will, just to give people some idea of what you're dealing with. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but you need to know what you're walking into with eyes open.
Right.
You get there, you meet a bunch of people you've never met before, possibly, and then you're all working on this, and you're walking. I don't know a better way to describe it, through a swamp. We probably took 8 to 9 hours through the swamp. So that just gives you a little taste of what we were dealing with, solving things in the swamp, searching things, doing crazy athletic things, all as this big group. And the cache owner is one of the coolest people. He goes through with you, because I told you it took 2 years to even get us out there. He actually created an extra key for us, just so, and he worked it out to get a 4th person.
Wow.
He did all that. After he saw all the work that we put into trying to get all 4 of us together, how many times we tried, and this 4th person never showed up. He worked it all out. He came along with us through this entire thing, this entire day of caching. And
Crazy.
There were a couple of the stages that were gone, and he brought replacement stuff along with him to go up and fix it while we were out there. And we would have never been able to do it, obviously, without him there. And he cares so much about his geocaches that he creates, and he puts so much time and effort into it. He wanted to make sure stuff was right, and we got the experience that we set out to do. And I love that. He's a very conscientious, caring creator of geocaches.
I think you've got a few, we'll call them friends / trolls in the chat room, but they all want you to talk about some kind of tree. So Trey is in there.
Oh,
and so Kyle.
All right,
Ben.
Yep, those are all the guys downstairs that are supposed to be working on puzzles, but apparently
they're giving you a hard time. Tell them about the tree. So I don't know if you can talk about the tree.
I can't actually. We get to one of the stages, because it's not a huge thing. It's not a huge surprise to people. We get to one of the stages, and we're searching everywhere, high and low, and I tend to look high because I think trees and putting things up in trees, and he actually said this one was missing, so he climbed up this little tree. This guy is, okay, I'm just going to say it this way, way smaller than I am. And he climbs up this tree, gets up there and puts the thing up in the tree and says, all right, it's up there. You can go get it. And so I said, all right, fine. I'm going to go ahead and go up and climb this tree. So I did. I started climbing up the tree. I did I've climbed over 300 trees through different multis and things that I've done. There's a bunch of them in Ohio. And so I have a few tree climbers myself, so I've climbed them multiple times. So I know how to climb trees. I went up, started climbing. I'm almost up to the container, and I start feeling the tree leaning back.
Oh, no. No.
Back. And I just kind of keep on going. And I just put my feet down, and I have a hold of the tree. I said, all right, somebody grab the container. It's right there. And yeah, literally the tree snapped. Once it buckled that far, the tree snapped. I said, I don't know if that was I'm pretty sure that wasn't my fault, but maybe.
Yeah, it's tree's fault.
That's why they're razzing me. Is I broke a tree in the process of trying to find the thing.
So the owner was out there the whole time in the swamp with you too?
Yes, he came out and his waders and everything. That's what I mean. He is super committed to putting out amazing experiences. He has another one, the Labyrinth. I don't know if that's in your book. That's another fantastic one we went out to do. That was underneath.
It might be
underneath Durham, where Duke is.
Right.
You're crawling around in the tunnels underneath Durham for miles, literally miles of crawling. And when I made that phone call that first time, he's like, "Have you ever done any caching down here in North Carolina?" I said, "Yeah, I did Labyrinth." He said, "You did not." Yeah, I did. I went and I started like describing some of the things that I did, and he's like, "All right, maybe you did." And I told him what my name was, and he could go find my log and see where we all got together and went out and did that. And that's another fantastic one, the Labyrinth.
I think it's definitely top 20. It's not in the top 10, but I think it's top 20.
It should be. It's another
one. Another great cache. Well, it's
memorable.
Hard.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just say real fast. It's some of these. It can be kind of hard to get into the top 10. Unfortunately, again, it's subjective. We're looking at favorite points, so it is what it is. So.
And I know that this isn't the determiner, and obviously that's not what gets it in your book or makes it more popular or whatever. But to me, right. I've only been on very few caches where the owner was like so proud of the cache and so invested in it, they would come out and do the cache with you. Like when you go, one of those rare caches. And out here, it's typically like a hike. They'll go and hike with you or whatever. It'd be a mountain cache. But but anytime we get to, of course, we're lucky enough we get to talk to everybody, gets to do all the weird caches around the world. But I'm always amazed when that's a different level of commitment from an owner and from somebody that's willing to put in that effort in the cache, and it kind of makes you think sometimes, like, if every person was only allowed to put out one cache each.
Oh, right. Yeah.
There's 2 million cachers out there, right? Or 5 million or whatever. They gain 5 million a year. That's still a ton of caches that you'll never find all of them. But imagine how good the cache would be if you're only allowed to put out one cache.
Right. Like, or one, maybe one per year.
Acropolis or Labyrinth or one of these type caches.
Exactly.
You'd be like, that's it. You've done my caches. You've done my whole collection now. So
exactly.
Imagine that for, they tried it 1 year. I don't know if they had said, yep, you know what? Only one cache instead of 300 caches per cacher. Imagine how awesome you'd make that one cache if you're only allowed to do one.
Well, and to be fair, that's part of what went through my mind when I realized I only had one virtual that I could use. So I went, I'm going to make this the most amazing virtual that I can make, that I could think of at the time. And I put a lot of effort into it for that very reason, because it was so rare to get it. But also, to be fair, if you have all of this amazing stuff, then the bar changes. Yeah, so when you get 100 light posts and then you get something that's a little an ammo box, the ammo box is a million times better than the light posts. And then it just kind of keeps escalating. You can have different levels of awesome caches, and everybody can cache how they want to. But you're right. When you get somebody who actually cares about what's going on and puts effort, and that to me is a win, a huge an asset to the geocaching community.
This is funny. That, so we got Happy Hodex says, how many sock puppet accounts would there be? Well, yeah, because we would want to hide our caches. Now, I would say make it premium. Only premium get to do it, which
would be good.
I'm just joking about this. Don't send in the hate mail. I'm not saying that non-premium members can't hide caches. And this is, I don't know if they're joking or not. Rad Dad won 300. Who would hide 300 caches?
I got a feeling
I've got thousands of them. Yeah, they're probably joking about it. But if you're new to the game, you would think, how would you hide 300 caches? You can't maintain that. Well, a lot of people don't, but some people do. That's what they do full time, right? That's their. You have people that maintain hundreds of caches out there.
Yeah,
but it's just different, right? Everybody's different, but like you don't come across this kind of dedication very often. There's, we could sit here and name them all night long because we know about ones all around the world, but ones that you've actually been to each, there's not that many like that out there.
Incredible. Yeah. And
just
so, what was
they were joking? They have almost 500. So
I had a feeling.
Who would
I
do
did
that? So what was it? because again, this is a 5-5. It's a multi-stage cache. So what was it like? Like when you got to the middle of it, is there? Well, let me put it this way: was there a point when you felt like there's a light somewhere at the end of this tunnel?
No.
No. Okay, good. That's good.
I just knew I didn't care how long the tunnel was. I was getting to the end.
We were going.
I spent 2 years creating this experience, making this happen. I am going to get to the end. If it's midnight from the next day, we're going to get to the end some way or another.
That's awesome.
So, that was my mentality.
Truly earns the reputation, right? You weren't let down at all after all that planning.
No way. It was better than I even expected. It was amazing. Like I said, the cache owner made it cool. On top of that, but just the stages were things I'd never seen before. And I've done, for instance, every one of W.V. Tim's gadget caches, just to put it in perspective. So I have not seen anything like some of the things that he created. And they were incredibly done. And he just sat back, just kind of watched us.
Yep.
And you could see the grin on his face. And I loved, it was actually almost fun sometimes just watching him watch us.
Yeah.
We're struggling through this. What are we supposed to do with this thing?
There's a little pressure there too, though, right? Because he knows the answer.
Exactly.
And you're sitting there doing it under pressure, like while you're being watched.
But he was super cool and stayed off in the distance. And like I made it a point to make sure I was seeing like how he was reacting to everything.
Right.
But he stayed off a ways and was very, very cool the whole time. So
how many people were in your group?
So that's one of the rules is you can only bring one person along with you. Like you have a key and a person to come with you.
Okay.
So you're only allowed to really have 8. My son ended up going with us, and then I brought another friend of mine from Ohio, who's probably one of the people in the chat room saying, tell them about the tree. That's all you can really bring. And I wouldn't recommend bringing more than that anyway, just because of what you're going through and all the pieces that have to happen. So,
okay.
That makes sense. That's how it was designed to be, 8 people.
Yeah.
It's 2 per key, really. Is that the way to look at it?
As a max, yes. So 4 minimum, 8 max. That's the way you would want to look at it. Yeah.
Okay.
And now I'm assuming since the owner was there with you, he has spare keys around, right? In case those go missing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
But the idea though is to try to contact.
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The other people who finished recently, recently is not a good term for this, but you get the idea because it's been out, like you said, it's not found very often.
Is when it came out, and it's only been found by 111 people. And considering it's 8 at a time, that's not a lot.
No.
So really, you got to look 8. I assume it's 8 every time. It could be 4 sometimes too, but it's got to be at least 4, right?
Yeah, it has to be 4. Yes.
Yeah. So you're talking 25 times max is how many times it's been found. So
I would guess that sounds about right.
That's pretty cool.
And he created like a Facebook page for everyone who's found it so that you can then talk about it, post pictures and things like that only we'll ever see. So like he's very, very involved with the whole process from beginning to after. And
I don't have a cache like that. This is making me want to put out a cache like that. That's like got its own Facebook group, and that not that many people find it, but it's a group. And I'd go out every time with them. I've gone out with people on some of my hiking caches because they'll get a group together to do that. But it's nothing special like this. It was just hiking in the mountains. This is awesome. This is a whole different part of the game that people don't even really think about, right? Like being the owner side. If you're a cache owner, you like people to find your caches and logs, but have you ever had the experience where you're taking like this? Have you ever been this kind of owner? That's just a whole different level to get to.
I've had it a few times, but they are very, very few and far between. And it's a love of what you're doing. And you put it out because and you love seeing people enjoy it. That's part of it too, I'm sure, for him. And he's very, very proud of the work that he did, and he should be. He absolutely should be. And he won't sit and brag on himself. He's very, very humble.
Right.
But he feels the same way I do. Caches should be, if you put out something awesome, then people need to find it and people need to be able to experience it. It's an experience. It's not just finding a cache. You're creating an experience that it sticks with you. I still can smell what it smelled like. I feel I can bring myself back to that place when I was doing this. And that's what I love when I go out geocaching, is finding those experiences that are bigger than just I found a Tupperware in the woods or whatever.
Right. That's extremely memorable. I mean, you don't have that many experiences in your caching career that are like this to rival something like this.
Yeah, you want those. And CB590 brings up an interesting point, which is sounds like a great cache experience, but seems like a lot of work for very few to enjoy.
It is a lot of work.
And my response, I'll get y'all's response, but my response would be, yeah, that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not supposed to be enjoyed by everybody because it's an experience. It's a truly immersive, full experience, and not every cacher is interested in that, which sadly we should all do. We all should do some of those in our. Not every cache should be like that, but
no, I mean that would be overkill, right? That would be people's cache counts over 10 years to be like 11.
Right?
You wouldn't be finding tons, right? But that's like we talk about all the time. Something like this balances out like a power trail weekend,
exactly,
or a puzzle that you work on for 6 months, or that virtual that's at Mount Rushmore. You're only going to get that once. I mean, it's just a one and done kind of deal or whatever. But it's every one of these that you have balances out those, that 100 that you find along a fence line that you just pop and go, right? So, yeah, you wouldn't want that, if there was only one in your area like this and there was no other caches, you'd be done quick. So, but it's good to have all these type of experiences, not just for everybody, but even for us. Like we cache year after year. We've done it for a decade now, and I want different things to do at different times.
Exactly. Yeah, incredible. We got to get on to the other cache, but let's wrap this one up. What was it like to finish the cache, Brian? And then what else do you want to kind of wrap up on with Pandora's Box before we move on to the next one?
So just getting to the end, getting to the afternoon, we've been working the whole time. We hadn't eaten, we didn't bring food with us because we didn't know that it would be quite this long. And other people have done it in shorter amounts of time. And we got to the end, had some difficulty with the final stage. I don't want to get into that because I don't want to spoil anything. But you're sitting there going, I can't believe we're at the end and we can't finish. And we finally get into this thing, and it was just one of those, the heavens have opened up, the sun comes down, and then you finish it all and you go, crap, we got to walk back to the car. But we did. We walked back to the car, and then we're like, we got to go somewhere to eat. We got to go somewhere to just talk about this experience that we just went through. Sat and talking to the cache owner on the way back about, he was looking at us like, I can't believe it took you that long to solve that stage, and we're dealing with some of the ribbing and all that kind of stuff. My buddy King Tut went along with us, even though he had done it before. He came along too, as just to walk along with the cache owner to watch us as we were going through the process, because he loves the cache that much. So we're all talking about, their experience versus our experience. And, you see some of this stuff, and it was just, and then like for me, this is the post-caching celebration, go out and enjoy. And then, for me also, the big finale for me is writing the log. because when somebody puts that much work into a cache, I want to put some kind of effort into the log
Oh,
that
yeah.
I write. And so I take time, and I'll take a few days before I write it. And a lot of times I'll do song parodies, or I'll come up with something silly to just talk about how amazing the experience was and let the cache owner know that no matter how much I may have complained, how many times I fell down, how many times I broke a tree, all of the things that may have gone wrong, that this changed my life, literally changed my life, because I went through an experience that not very many people have gone through. And that to me is super special, to have an experience like that with people. And you know, these are people that some of them were my friends, some of them I'd met for the very first time, and we're going through this amazing thing. And I want to make sure that the cache owner knows about it, and that people who read my log know this was not just TFTC.
Yeah. No, you wrote like an ode. You wrote like you did like an epic poem, like the days of old. You know, you're like, so everybody should go read Brian's log post, because it's incredible. It's in the show notes, by the way. I cut and pasted the show notes because it was epic, and I wanted people to read it. So it will be in the show notes, but also you can go check out the page, and you wrote like a poem, like one of those, like the days of yore with it's a ballad, so that's awesome.
It was actually, if I remember right, that was the parody of Ride Till I Can't No More, because that song
that's it.
That's what it was. It was a parody of that song.
Yeah, I'm gonna hike till I can't no more. I'm gonna take my
That's
key to
funny.
Pandora's box.
What's fun about getting to do a log like that? It means you've done something special, right? If you're writing a special log like that, it's generally because, unless you're just bored, it's generally because you found like a really awesome cache, and you just don't come across those that often. I mean, there's cool caches, and like there's some gadgets I've found that are just mind blowing. Some of the gadgets, right? But that's not in the same ballpark as what we're talking about right now. Like a whole day experience with a group. Not that one's better than the other, right? Because everybody likes different stuff. But I mean, there's some gadgets out there that are just crazy. I
think that they're better, but it's not like the one guy said, it's not for everybody, and it's not something that everybody is going to appreciate or even be able to do. You have to be physically capable to pull it off. There's all kinds of pieces of every cache, and that's why there's so many different kinds out there, and I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I wouldn't want there to be only one type of cache, even if it was this awesome, right? I wouldn't want that to be the only thing, because there's other stuff that, that you want to do as well. So, but yeah, very deserving of a very good log, and not everybody can write a song. I got that, not everybody has that talent, but, or not write a decent one anyway, but, but you do want to put some effort into it. And, on something like this, I'm sure you were very careful what photos you put in there, if you put any photos in there, because you don't want to spoil it for the next person. Right. But I'm sure you shared those on the Facebook group, though, the private Facebook group. Y'all can share whatever you want.
I actually shared with some of my buddies, and I shared it with King Tut, who then shared it with all the North Carolina cachers as best he could. And we shared around a lot of pictures.
It was a long time ago, but we had a similar experience where it was actually the very first 5-5 I ever did. It was the build up like this, right? There was like a dozen of us, and it took 12 hours. It was all underground, but I think it was just as much fun to plan it like you did, like months coming up. We got a Facebook group together. We all talked about when we were going to meet and how we were going to do different things and what equipment to bring, and, the knee pads and because there's water and everything else. That was almost as fun. It wasn't, but it was almost as fun as the day when we started the cache, which took us 12 hours too. But you don't get to build up to caches that often like this. And I think that doubles the experience immediately. And then get to talk about, we did the same thing. We did our post-caching meeting. We went to McDonald's, and it was the best McDonald's I'd had in my whole life, because I was starving and I was soaked from head to toe with hopefully just rainwater. Right. But there was bugs and bites all over us and everything else. We had knee pads on, elbow pads, and lights and stuff. And we're sitting in McDonald's, look like we've been coming out of like we've been miners or something. And we're just so happy eating fries and talking about it. And that post-caching celebration is you don't get to do that on a power trail generally. You might, if it's like ET or something, you get to the end of the day, and I don't know, I've never done it, but it's different, right? But it's something not to be overlooked because you don't get those experiences that often.
Yep.
You want every geocacher out there to go through this. That makes sense.
At least have one big epic adventure that you've done to really feel like you're getting the whole experience. Yeah,
exactly.
And that could be anything, right? Like you were in the swamp. Not everybody can go through the swamp. I get that, but there's epic adventures you can have for all levels, for people of all levels, right? Physical abilities and everything. You could do that around town. We mentioned before the show, I never got to finish it, but we were working on one at a university. Anybody could physically have gone and done this. Now, it took us 6 months and it got archived before we finished it. So that sucks. But anybody could have gone and done it, but it would still be considered epic.
Yeah.
Everybody should do it at least once in their career, something like this.
Definitely. Okay, let's switch gears. We're going to talk a little bit about I'm trying to move him down. Okay. There's a cache out in Oregon. It's also made my book, the 501 Geocache book. Very famous one, but I wanted to get your take on your experience, and I'll put it in the show notes, or it's in the show notes. I'll put it in the chat room and we'll bring it up here in this show, but it's got a funny name. It's called "You Can Have This Cache When You Pry It From ... So, by the way, on the last cache, I forgot to mention on the last cache, Brian, you're still the last person to have done that cache. That was April of last year.
Yeah.
And we're still,
I don't know. I kind of watched that cache page and I haven't seen anybody even talking about, I want to be next or whatever. So
right.
I don't know what's going on with that.
Hopefully somebody will want to do it. I mean, all the stages are there. Well, hopefully.
Yeah. There's no log since April of 2021. Not even a note, not even a right note on it.
Yeah. So there's a little lull, but I assume somebody will come along and pick up the mantle again. But all right, we're switching gears. So this cache, tell us a little bit about how this cache came about in your knowledge of it, and how the genesis of you preparing to do this cache in Oregon.
So this one was I had a friend, actually it's the same friend who went and did Pandora's Box with me, and we had this trip planned to go out to the Pacific Midwest, to get to Oregon and Washington, to get the original stash tribute, to go and find some of the older caches that are in Oregon, and then we went and did a GCD up on in the Cascade Mountains, and then the ape cache. We had this whole big trip planned out, and those were what we had planned to do, and those are already pretty spectacular. The trip, those were the plan, and then. But we had some extra time. We planned out when we were going to do those. This was a year and a half planning to get all this together. Partially because our trip got postponed. Right. But then when we finally went, we'd had all this time to kind of plan it out and look at what we were going to do and when we were going to do what on what day. And we're staying at a hotel room, and we get there a little bit earlier than we kind of anticipated, and we're like, I wonder what's out there. We literally are in the hotel room looking around, pulling up favorite points, looking at Project GC, and sorting things out and looking what we can find. And I go, this name is really weird. But it was near the top, and I look at it, and it's got a high difficulty, high terrain. It's not like insane. So I like doing crazy things. So we just started, my buddy and I started talking about it, and it's 6 o'clock at night. Looks like it might be involved, but maybe it's not. We can't really tell. Like, let's just go to the first stage and see what it's like. So because we're reading the logs, we're reading the description. The description talks about this crazy old man who has his cache, and he has an idea about where he's going to hide it. And he goes, it's this whole story that they set up in the description. And I love that. They put in the time just to set up that description that way. And so we're like, all right, let's go. Let's give it a shot. So we head out to the first stage, and I am blown away by what they pulled off to get this first stage the way that it is. And I'm like, okay, we got to see the second stage now. And so, you know, we had a long walk to get to the first stage. We walked back and we're like, all right, this is over this thing and down this. And oh my, we're going through a tunnel. Well, how did that happen? And we're getting through all this, and we get to the stage, and it's like, well, the next stage is over. And we just kept following to see, if it gets dark, we'll stop. and we just keep having to drive to these other stages. We have no idea how long this is going to take. We have no idea. But at every stage, we're being surprised by something new. Something new is at this stage. Something new is at this stage. I'm like, that's really cool. And we're driving to one of the stages, and we pass by this wall of troll dolls.
Right.
And somebody is at the wall nailing a troll doll to this wall. I'm like, what in the world are we looking at right now?
What's going on?
This has nothing to do with the cache. But we drive past, and it turns out it's actually a pretty famous place, the troll wall. In this area, you can look it up online, and we find out that there's a whole story behind it. But we're going here, and we're stopping here, and we get to this and this and this, and we get to the end, and it's getting dark, but it's still light. It's still light enough. It's overcast, and it's still light enough that we're not using flashlights, really. And we get up to this. It's an amazing view. We'll start the finale's at this amazing view, looking out over these mountains. I'm blown away just by the view. And then we kind of go back into the wooded area a bit, and we come around to the finale, and I'm like, you will not believe what this finale is.
It's incredible.
I look at my buddy, and we're like, I can't believe that they put this out here. I don't know how they did this. This is and why it's staying. How they aren't. This isn't getting muggled and destroyed, and it's just it is in such a remote place that apparently people don't go out there. And it was mind blowing, like all of the stages leading up to it, and it followed a story. That was one of the favorite parts. Is it's still this guy going from place to place, hiding his hiding his cache that he doesn't want the government to get at it, and so you pry it from my
pry from my cold dead hands.
Yeah, and so that plays into this whole cache. The entire thing from beginning to end is following this theme of you ain't gonna come after my cache because you ain't gonna be able to get to it from all the things that I'm putting you through.
It's so awesome.
And we like I said, just totally on a whim, last second, no planning involved in this case.
But we're going for it.
Happened upon it and went, we're going to go give this thing a shot. And we got back, and I'm like, man, something smells. And it was my shoes from being in the tunnel. And so we had to go some quarters to clean things in the hotel laundromat. And late at night, because there was a little bit of a drive back and everything, and we went and celebrated after that one. Found a dive bar to go hang out and talk about what in the world we just saw.
What was
so? I'm trying to talk around spoilers, obviously, right? So what makes this? And you kind of alluded to one of the things that I think, but what makes this an epic cache for you? What was the elements that really made this good? And I'll ask you a question about it in a minute, but I think you've already kind of alluded to one of them. What makes this on that list of epic caches for you?
To me, it's anything that it's got some kind of surprise element, something that you've never seen before, something that's really, really rare, and you put it together in a special way. To me, it's the story. It is the
There you
full, like I said, from beginning to end, the experience. You are a part of a story. You are tossed into this story from the beginning, which is the description of the cache page, and you follow this story all the way through to the end. And then for me, like I said, for me, I like finishing it up. Like, now here's my piece of the story, and that's my log. Is I don't need to tell any spoilers to tell my piece part of the story and add to what this cache owner already created, which was an amazing, amazing experience.
See, that's what I was going to ask you about. If that was the kind of the piece, it sounds like we harp on this a lot on the show, obviously, but one of the often neglected elements of a cache sometimes is the cache page. You can really build up the excitement of the experience by, like this guy did. He told a story, and there's a story to get you started already before you even start the cache. And I think that's one of the elements that people miss a lot, but that's what can really take it from a great cache to like an epic cache. It puts it on that list, right? You've really pushed it that much further. Besides the nice locations, which are great. We can't talk about what they are, but you do that, and then you add a story weaving it together. I think that's why we're talking about these caches on a whole show, is because they've brought it into that epic level using elements like that.
And for me, that kind of stuff can be done on many different levels. Because you can create a story. One of the coolest caches I've done in Michigan was a one called The Warning, and there was a whole group of it was so popular, just the cache page, that people were referencing it on all kinds of social media everywhere, saying,
yeah,
oh my gosh, check out The Warning. And just the cache page itself is you could read the cache page. It's written by a serial killer.
I love it.
If you read through the whole thing, it's a serial killer talking about how some idiot who is out doing this thing called geocaching, if that's even a word, and he stumbled upon my special place where I go to talk to Mother.
Oh, we've either talked about this one, we've heard about this one before. We've talked to somebody about this cache before.
And my whole point is, you can set up something like that, and I'm glad that the cache was awesome. On top of it, it wasn't anything like a Pandora's box, and it wasn't as cool as you can pry from my that it wasn't as cool as that, but it still set you up for an experience, a feeling.
Yeah,
like, you're not just walking through the woods; you are walking to Mother's place.
Well, there's more to this cache too, and we don't want to stay on this one all night long, but if you go to the cache page, it's a 2009 cache. This one we're talking about right now. With the big long title, right? You can have this cache when you pry it from. But it's been out since 2009. Only 115 people have ever found it, which is not a lot considering it's been out for a long time, right? And there's about 100 favorite points on it, so that's a very high percentage of people that have found it. But one of the really interesting elements that the owner is involved in this is when you pull up the cache page, it's got a list of everybody it ties into the story, but it's got a list of everybody that actually has found it, which I know the list is down there for who's found it, but it shows that he or she, whoever it is staying up to speed on this cache. He's watching it. He's liking it. There's 27 people, 115 people have found it. There's 27 people still watching it. That's a lot considering, that it's interesting like that.
If you go to my profile page, they gave me a little badge to put on my profile page to say that
I love that.
That's just one more piece of this. And I thought that was a really cool thing. I wrote up my log, my big long log. They said, man, I really loved your log. I loved all this about it. Here's something to put on your profile page and it promotes the cache.
Very cool.
You can see it. And I thought it was a nice little touch.
And you'll never forget that cache.
Nope.
There's no way, especially even without the digital souvenir, but with that digital souvenir, and which is just like HQ does theirs and everything else. It didn't go on that page, but I've seen that more overseas than I've seen here on cache series or whatever. But I love that idea, and not everybody can come up with that. I got that because everybody has different skills, right? But I just think that's one of the coolest things, and you're cementing that cache in your geocaching history forever after that. You'll never forget that one.
Incredible. It is the number one most popular in Oregon. and we talked about, I think we talked about, we at least talked about prior to the show, which is one of the things that we recommend that you do if you're going to a location is get on Project GC, pull up the state, and go into Wilson, the Wilson algorithm in Project GC, and look up the caches for the location. And you'll find that basically Wilson is a most popular sort of algorithm. So that will really help you, if other than just looking at favorite points, because favorite points tells you part of the story. Reason I like it, I like Wilson, and Brian likes Wilson, is that there's another part to that, which is not just people giving favorite points, because favorite points are good, but they can be
That's
a little
whole
misleading.
show in itself. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be a little misleading because, so again, most popular. I won't push my book too hard, but you can get more information about Wilson in my book. Go get the book and buy
just for fun. I looked at that one, the one we're talking about now. Yep. Out of the eligible people that could favorite that one, what do you think the percentage is of people that favored it?
I actually know, which is part of why we went and did this. So
okay. So not you, Gary. You guess.
Oh gosh, it's got to be really high because again, it's the number one.
I wouldn't bring it up if it wasn't. So yeah,
90 something maybe.
100%.
Is it 100? Wow.
100% of people that are eligible to favorite it have favored it. Wow, that's pretty impressive. You don't see that very often.
No, that is incredible.
I mean, that speaks to it right there, right? Like, the virtual that we have, like we made, just like you said earlier, we get one virtual and we kind of used the one that I got for the Geocache talk, and we put the plaque at Mingo, and
which is
that one
great,
has
by the way,
400 something favorite points, but it's only like 25% of people that are eligible. There's a huge difference in that and 100, but it's 100%. That's a big difference. That weights that a lot differently, right?
Yeah. Incredible.
So I mean, we could talk about favorite points in a whole show, and we have, but I just thought that was interesting. 100%. That puts a stamp on that one right there. Sure.
It does.
That's why we went and did it, and that's why I made sure I added my favorite after it was done.
Well, I mean, how do you not, right? As epic as it is, and then not only after that, they sent you a digital souvenir, and you're not going to favorite that cache? What? Where are you caching that doesn't rank in your favorites? I don't get it.
What kind of people are these that would not favor something like that?
Yeah, be like, it's all right. That's just an okay cache. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do that every day.
People do not do this every day. I can tell you that right now.
Tell you right now.
No. And I mean, the odds of that too, like Cache the Line just said in the chat room, people don't even on awesome caches, sometimes people don't do it, right? Some people just don't award favorites. They just don't care. Some people don't play the game that way, and that's their choice. So when you have a cache that has 115, whatever, 100 favorites or whatever it is, and 100% of people have done it, that's saying something.
Yeah, that's incredible. Which, I wonder if it tells you. Go ahead.
That's part of what I was gonna bring up about the warning and some other stuff is there are lots of things that make a cache memorable. There is the storyline. There's the cache write-up. There is, did the story match up with the cache write-up? Was there something unique that you've never seen before? Did it cause you to go out of your element and push you out of your comfort zone in a positive way? Like for me, that's tree climbing or crawling through tunnels or climbing up GCD. That was an amazing experience. Was then the view where you ended up. There are so many things that can lead to somebody saying, this is one of the favorite things I've ever done. But when you put multiple elements of that together, that's when you get that really special, I can't believe I just did what I just did feeling.
And that's when you do that, it really does put everything together, and it makes you wonder sometimes why people miss some of those elements. The one, and I'm not bagging on anything, right? But one of my favorite cache types obviously is challenges. But quite often you'll work on a challenge for like 6 months, and then the final is like a pill bottle. And you're like,
Right.
seriously? I've been dreaming about finishing this challenge for 6 months, and you threw a pill bottle under a bush. At least do something that's a little cooler than that, because some challenges you're already qualified for when you show up. That's fine. But
Yeah.
there's some that, unless you're just a weirdo, you're not going to be qualified for every challenge because there's weird stuff out there. And you'll go and you'll work on it forever, and then you get to the end and you're like, this is very anticlimactic. This is not. I mean, and something that would sometimes I'll do a favorite point anyway, just because the fun of the challenge. But I'm like, oh, you could have pushed this just a little. Themed, even
put the
themed pill bottle if you're gonna do it.
Just
Like put a
theme it,
sticker on the side or something. But a little fizzy sticker or something, and you would be super happy about it. But I think challenges is one of those that where you have such a great build up, and then a lot of times the final is nothing.
Yeah.
And I will speak to the other side of that. Not to disagree with you, because I actually agree with you, but I also have been on the side where I'm like, there's only going to be 2 people that find this a year, maybe.
Yeah.
And I don't want to blow my shot at a lot of people seeing this amazing view, for instance.
Right.
Or finding this awesome container that I put together, or all of these pieces together. So I run into that battle myself when I'm putting together a difficult puzzle, or I have a puzzle that takes people days to solve. And I'll just be honest, it takes you to a nice place, but it definitely doesn't live up to what you did in the puzzle. The same thing with Mother of All Puzzles. It takes you to a final that's like, and I've seen people write logs that say, it took me months to solve this puzzle, and then it's just a container off in the corner. And the whole point of the puzzle was the puzzle, not the container at the end. But I get your point, though.
Yeah.
That sometimes if there's something you can do to make it a final stamp instead of an anticlimactic moment, it's tough though when you don't want to waste those. It feels like
that is true. And that's the thing. There's different ways to look at all this. I had one recently that really takes your point. I had a cool challenge that I had to fight to get the challenge published, and it was find or attend an event every day of the month, not all in 1 month, just over the years, and pick January every day of it. And it had an ammo can that was painted up, and I got a buddy to 3D print like the question mark sign on it, and it was painted and all that other stuff, and it got stolen. So at the same time, I'm like, but that was one of those things, people found it and they were like, oh, cool container, because it was blue, just like, it was themed like the challenge, the icon or whatever, but then it goes missing and you're like, I'm not doing that again. I'm not going to do all that effort again. So now it's like a crappy, I just archived that one, but I was like, I'm not going to do that again. So it's going to end up being a dang pill bottle or something too. So I get that. Karen mentioned that too. You put out a good container and somebody steals it and you're like, I can't bring my heart to do that
you're
again.
Bummed.
It is what it is, right? That's always part of the game.
Yeah, I had a cache that I put out that I put a lot of work in. I talked about it before the show, but the point is, when I got to the end, people had stolen pieces of it 4 different times. And I had to rebuild it, which involved finding computer chips and then cutting them out into a jigsaw puzzle. And I had to redo that 4 different times. And I just said, you know what? This is only found once every 2 years. It's just not worth it anymore. So
yeah, that's hard. I mean, that's you've got to really do it for the love of it.
Yeah.
Or you'll pull your hair out all the time. You have to know that's as soon as it's out there, just like a trackable. If you send a trackable out, just know that it may make it to one location, possibly, or be going for 10 years. Who knows? But you've thrown it away into the cosmos at that point.
You never know. Yeah. All right. Well, let's end on maybe more of a little bit more of a positive note, not a downer note. So
no, we're positive trackables go missing.
You're positive that they're going to go missing.
That's right.
I agree with you. All right, so let's wrap up. We'll go around the room and kind of give final thoughts. I'll start, and I'll go around to Jesse. We'll wrap up with our guest. So, harking back to CP590, it made me think about, and I know he meant it. He didn't mean it in a derogatory way. He meant it more as a discussion point, and that is, you make these great, incredible, epic caches, and then nobody finds them.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, as we talked about, and something that I really appreciate is that there are these kind of caches that are out there. And I encourage people to go create one. You don't need to create a whole lot of these, but if you have the elements that you think will come together, and that's the key, is not every location in the world has the elements that would lead to something like that. But I think most places can lead to a location like that. They don't have to be exactly the same. They don't need a swamp or they don't need a mountain or anything like that. But I think that we too often we'll get to a point with a cache and we're like, okay, that's good enough. Let me log it. Let me put it in the, post it, get it published and be done. Whereas I think if we really stretch ourselves and really try to do not only a great location, but let's add a great story to that location.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, make it a cool container or some cool kind of final twist like you're talking about. Again, it's a lot of work. Maybe hide it in such a way, like maybe the one that's in Oregon where it's really out of the way. Maybe take a little extra time to figure out a way to camouflage it even better so that it might stick around a long time. So that's my thought, is let's all try to create an epic cache this year, at least just one. So, all right.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what Gary said, and everything you said, I 100% agree with. And then I'm going to add on to that. So I think everybody should have, whether it's this year or not, have one cache in your collection that you're just the most proud of, right? Like you put all the elements in there. And now, if you live in the mountains or you live in the swamps, that's great because you have an easy location. Not easy, but I mean, you have an obvious location you can do it. But if you live in the middle of the city, you can still do the same thing. And I think you talked about it earlier on the show, but and we've talked about it before. I did a reverse city. It wasn't even geocaching related. It was like a escape room in a city and down in Hawaii.
Right.
And there was no elements on that anybody couldn't put together. Right. You're looking at buildings. You're solving puzzles based on buildings that are there and stuff that's on the ground and art that's in the city. But it was all those elements together that anybody could have done. I mean, there was no special abilities that you needed or anything like that, but you could spend half a day doing something like that, and it could be your crowning achievement of your of your collection. And I think everybody should have. Now, some people can do more, right? Some people, WV Tim's got tons out there. People have 2 or 3. We mentioned today 2 or 3 by one guy that are top in the state, but have one cache that's like your most crowning achievement. And I think people, and just to be able to watch the logs that come in, the experiences come in, I think that would change a lot of people's opinions of being cache owners. A lot of people shy away from it because things are going to get broken. They're going to get stolen. Things like that are going to happen. Area's going to change, whatever. Management may change. You have to move the cache. Things like that are going to happen. But I think that's when you see how much it's worth it, is when you have that epic cache that you own that people talk about. And you don't have to spend $1,000 doing it. You can do it with no money. I mean, so anybody can do it, but do that one where that just like, you may show up at an event and people are talking about your cache. They don't even know it's your cache. How cool is that experience, right? That's awesome. So I think everybody should strive for that. Hide as many caches as you want, but strive for that one that you're really just super proud of. And you're going to change. If several people in your area did that, you just up the game in geocaching in your area.
Yep.
Well, and
I'll turn it over.
Brian, over to you.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of a lot of things you said. I think the main point is it's a labor of love. It is absolutely, you have to love it enough to care about. And I'll jump back to my Rose Bowl experience, being in California and looking around and seeing the mountaintops around us, the mountains all around us in this in the Pasadena, LA area. And I said, how can you live here? And like, we're marching on a marching band field and we're looking at these mountains off in the distance. I'm like, how can you have this as your backdrop and march every day? But these people that becomes their norm. This is just the way it is. And if you can find that in your area, wherever you live, there's something special where you live. And you want people to find out about it, but it's something that you may have just, you just look over now because you've seen it every day. You see it every day. It just becomes a part of your life. And I think if you can find those places, find those ideas that you care about. I created a cache that was a puzzle that was about the Cubs in the World Series, because that's a big love of mine.
Right.
And it wasn't a lot of hard work. It's just I put my love into this cache. And that's what I search out. I specifically look for amazing caches all over the U.S. and I create vacations around those caches. When I go to this area, I'm going to do this cache because I saw that it was amazing. I'm really looking forward to getting your book, Gary, so that I can even have another place to look for things like that. And so I can tell you, I've done a lot of really fantastic experiences that I could talk about all night long if we wanted to. But it's all about cache owners caring. It's all about loving what you're doing. And I know that as a cache owner who's tried to create those amazing, amazing moments, some of them fall. Some of them fall flat. And then you get one like the one that you guys mentioned about mine earlier, the Grove City Remembers. Yeah. People love it and love what happened with it. And I am blown away by that. And I love it.
Awesome, Brian. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll do this again because there are, we've all had experiences that I think are great to share. So yes, we'd love to have you back, and let's do this again at some point, because it's worthwhile to do. Because I think the thing I want to remind or mention is that there's people out there that haven't done memorable caches. We've all probably run across people, and you're like, what's your favorite cache? And they're like, I don't know. I haven't really, you're like, oh my gosh, you got to have at least one, right? Nope, haven't done it yet. It's like, oh, we got to get you out. We got to get you out into the world. We need to get you finding some memorable caches, because that will change your life. It'll change the way that you look at things. And, that's the key. So again, Brian, thank you so much for being on, and we will do this again.
Great.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. We'll see Tuesday night, Gadget Talk now on every Tuesday night. And next week we've got a great puzzle talk show coming for Sunday. So thank you to everybody who came along for our little show tonight. And we'll see you on the next one, if I can find the outro. And here we go. Good night, everybody.
May your finds be many, and your DNFs be few. May the terrain and difficulty both be less than 2. And whatever it is you're looking for, may it find its way to you. And may we all meet again.
Folks, we hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. Please email us your comment at geocachetalk@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. The show can be found on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Radio Public, or Spotify, as well as at the Geocache Talk website. Don't forget to click that subscribe button below and ring that bell notification so that you can see and hear the show on a weekly basis. And tell your friends about the show. Get them involved with us in the chat room. And until next week, don't just talk about geocaching, go geocaching.